All right. Welcome, everybody. Tonight is the Countrywide Coordinator Training Call with Anna Von Reitz, Anna Maria Reisinger. It is Thursday, February 12th, 2026, and it's 5:14 p.m. Pacific time. So hello, wherever you're tuning in from. My name is Michelle Ford. I'm the coordinator for the California Assembly. And wow, we've got a lot of people still coming into the call right now. So sorry, it's just lighting up with these little blue boxes. So
FYI, Michelle, you are Tony on Idaho. Now it just switched to me.
wait, say that again.
Tony on Idaho is showing your same picture that you're showing, and then when I talk, it pops me up. Now it's gone to a different thing. So I don't know what's happening with that person.
Tony on Idaho might be screen sharing. Um, might just be screen sharing the main video or something. I'm not totally sure how that goes, but thanks for letting me know that. Do we have anyone on the call tonight that would like to open us up in a prayer?
I wouldn't mind.
Awesome. Please go ahead, Dorothea.
Thank you.
Sure.
So, I'm just going to say, Heavenly Father, our Creator, thank you for bringing us all together again to come and share and to be part of the new. Help us to comprehend in our own hearts that who we are is who you are within us, shining the light, the world that needs it desperately. Let us move in your love, in your light, and let us take the steps in your strength to be part of what you want us to do according to. Thank you that you are the one that gave life, and also that we are the ones here creating through the ability that you've laid within us to create anew. And I say, Amen.
So be it. Thank you, Dorothea. What about a volunteer to do the Bivens tonight? Would anybody like to do the Bivens?
This is Michael. I haven't done it in a while. I'll be happy to do it.
That would be great. Go ahead, Michael.
Okay, thanks. From Bivens versus Six Unknown Agents, 403 US 388 from 1971. This meeting is private. Bearing false witness, misrepresentation, and posting inflammatory rhetoric in public forums is forbidden and shall be addressed in an appropriate manner. To eliminate all conflict and false allegations, is there anyone in attendance at today's meeting that is a member or agent of any law enforcement agency or public agency of the federal, state, county, city, or township agencies present? Is there a response to the Bivens decision for the first time? Hearing none, is there a response for the second time? Hearing none, is there a response for the third time? Anyone who is here under false pretenses, anyone who is working for any foreign government, including the territorial United States or municipal United States, anyone who is being paid or coerced to be here must fully disclose their presence and purpose now, or leave this call. If they subsequently show up as federal witnesses, they are discredited for failure to disclose. Are you now or have you ever received money or personal support of any kind from the intelligence community? Upon no response to this notice of the Bivens decision, this meeting shall now proceed. Thank you. I yield.
Great. Thank you so much, Michael, for doing that. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick scan of the waiting room. No, Anna's not here yet. She did text me and let me know that she's going to be here tonight, which is great. I just don't see her here yet. We have a number of hands up, and I always like to just start by making sure that those hands are for Anna. If there's anybody that has your hand up and you're not waiting for Anna, would you unmute yourself and let me know? Otherwise, I do have a couple things I'd like to talk about tonight. Until Anna gets here, that is.
Hi, this is Lori on Arkansas.
Go ahead,
Is
Lori.
anybody else having trouble with the LRO getting people recorded on the website?
Can any of our recording secretaries speak to that?
Michelle, Debbie, Joe. Oh, go ahead, Lori.
Well, my problem is twice I had one person I needed to record, and it would not submit the information, and it finally did it, and I don't know what I did to make it do that. Now I've got a couple of other people I need to record, and I can't get them submitted onto the LRO, and I don't know what's going on with that. Are they having website problems, or is it my fault? What, I don't know what's going on with it.
Well, on Tennessee, we're having the same problem. So I guess you would have to contact on the taskbar Dominique. So the recording secretaries are having those same issues. It's like locking them out. They can't upload, they can't change anything. So
Okay.
you're not alone.
So may
Okay,
I?
good. Go ahead, Lisa.
I found that there have been a few documents that if the document size is too large, they're not allowing you to upload the document because they're changing the size. So try compressing your PDFs and then try uploading them, okay? Because they have
No,
substantially lowered the size of the PDFs.
okay, that's not my problem. I'm putting in their information, their name and birth date and all that stuff, and then I hit submit and it doesn't do anything. And I can't get their name even into the system. And that's before I've even uploaded any documents.
Well, Microsoft just did some updates, so more than
Mm.
likely they got a glitch. So
Oh, it's on Microsoft?
it could, well, at least one of the platforms, it could affect something within it. So
Okay, well, I am working from a Mac computer, and I don't have Microsoft on my computer.
no, I mean that the system itself might have a component that has Microsoft on it, and
Mm.
with the update, they might have a little glitch they're gonna have to fix. So
Okay, all right. Well, I
just
guess
let
I'll
them
just have
know.
to be patient and
No.
wait till I can get them on there.
Yeah, you'll just have to let them know or send Terry Solomon an email. Let her know it's not working.
Okay, I'll send her an email then. Thank you.
Thank you for that
And I
feedback.
yield.
And thank you, Lori. I think that they're running on the PXP platform. But yeah, I agree with Lisa sending Terry an email to let her know. And it always helps if you can do a screen capture of whatever it is that is like where it gets stuck, or if there's an error message, including a screen capture in your email so she knows exactly where it's going wrong. Also, I see that Anna has hopped on. Welcome, Anna. Let me see if I can pin you to the front here. We've been missing you. How's your throat doing? Let's see here. Uh-oh. You're muted.
Okay now?
Yep. Good to go.
All right. My voice is about 95% there.
That's fantastic. I mean, we're way better than last time, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Welcome.
Right.
We've missed you. There's so much going on.
There is. Of course, the biggest news, in my opinion, is that the Federal Reserve has been nationalized. Okay. And I'm going to claim a partial victory for that. Because you will notice that prior to this, with the silver short and all the commodity market uproar, all they were going to do was going to change the guy in charge of the Federal Reserve. But when I brought forward the fact, that they never provided the remedy needed to legalize the Federal Reserve note, oh boy, howdy, things happened overnight, didn't they? Whoa, that was so fast, it just took my breath away. After years and years and years of people like Ron Paul trying to even get a look at what was going on in the Federal Reserve, much less overturn it and get rid of it. Man, I was just breathless. I thought, Okay? Yes. We turned the crank, folks. And now the Federal Reserve is under, it's been taken over and absorbed into the U.S. Treasury. All right. Now here I'm going to make an observation that all of you as adults have experienced, and you know what I'm talking about. You know how it's time to clean your house, and sometimes you don't have the time or you don't have the energy, so you just kind of do a little dust up. You sweep the floors, you wipe down the cabinets, and call it good, right? You don't really dig into the corners. You ignore that little spot of soda pop that's behind the refrigerator. It's there, but okay. And then there are other times when it's Saturday morning and you just got your back up and you just decided, well, I'm going to clean this house. I'm going to have at it. I'm going to get into those dirty, dark corners. I'm going to wash the windows. And now, when you just get into that, I'm going to really dig. Okay. So now we're in that position right in between. Are we going to accept a partial cleanup, a little dusting, a little rearranging, a little scrub the corners of the counters down and call it good? Or are we going to go all the way? Are we going to really dig in the nasty little corners? Are we going to get the spider webs out of the very top of the window? And are we going to go for it?
For it. Can I be bold and say, let's go for it? No whammies, no whammies, no whammies. Go.
Right. We've come this far, guys. Think of how far we've come. Oh my goodness gracious. We have come so far. It has taken so long. And so many people have sacrificed so much. And we're finally standing here and we have Mr. Trump saying, oh, I give you liberty. And we're standing here going, yeah, but we fought for and won freedom. Different thing. We're not confused. We know the difference. We know what we're owed. And we're here. Here's the contract. Okay, so I'm claiming a partial victory, and it sure feels good. But now we have to, kind of batten down and go all the way of our cleaning job. The mop and bucket brigade has cleaned the dog crap out of the foyer, and now we're going for the gusto. All right, we're going to make it count, and so don't be surprised. I'm celebrating. Okay, I've got my bottle of champagne out. I'm going to pop it after this meeting. My son and I are going to take a good cold draft, and we're going to click our glasses and dance around the kitchen and have chicken tacos, which isn't exactly champagne fare, okay, but that's what we're really going to do.
That's more margarita fare, honestly. If you're going for tacos, it sounds like a margarita kind of night, even if it's a lemonade and salt margarita.
It's just symbolic.
Yeah.
Jim had this bottle of champagne for the day that the Federal Reserve went down. And this is it. So we're going to open his champagne, and we're going to think about him, and we're going to think about all the years that it took. And we're going to be quietly happy that the Federal Reserve is gone, that it has been nationalized, that 147,000 metric tons of gold that belongs to us, all of us, has been recouped. that the stranglehold that the Rothschild banking empire had on us, and not just us, but on the world, is now gone. And that's something to celebrate. But in the days to come, we're going to be learning more about how that whole thing operated. We're going to be looking at some deep philosophical questions. And we're even going to be looking at it in terms of religion beginning this evening, because what we're looking at is actually an ancient religion. And it has operated in the background, and it has conditioned everyone, just like Pavlov's dog, to believe in money and to worship mammon. And this is something that Jesus dealt with during his days on earth, and that Abraham dealt with in his days on earth. And we're really not sure how far back into ancient history this cult of mammon goes. We know that it goes back at least 8,000 years. And it's been running in the background all those years, all this time, ever since it was introduced in Samaria. So we're going to be examining it. We're going to look at it. We're going to come face to face with the belief in money and the religion that it has spawned. And we're going to understand things about idolatry that we never even began to think about, and which the church never really discussed. If you think back on it, if you were like I was, the typical young girl going to evangelical Lutheran church, right? And going to Sunday school and doing all the things that Christian kids do. We passed over idolatry maybe half a dozen times. We defined what idolatry was. We had this vague concept in the back of our minds, and yet there was no emphasis on it at all. There was no real discussion about what idolatry is and how it affects our lives today. We didn't even think of it as something that was happening today. We thought of it in terms of, well, the ancient Middle East and, little carved gods. We didn't think about it in terms of idolatry still being around and still having, in this case, a disastrous effect on our lives today. But we're really going to get into it, and we're going to go for the deep clean. That doesn't mean that we necessarily have all the answers yet, but it means that we're all going to be thinking about it, and as we think about it, we'll be perhaps able to come up with a replacement, a system that is honest, something that is a way for people to exchange value that is honest. Okay? So as we go along and we're all talking about the current events, and we're pushing forward to not only get rid of the Federal Reserve, but also to gain beyond liberty our freedom, we'll also be looking at the roots of the problem. And it's not just a matter of exchanging pieces of paper for pieces of gold. It's a far more, it's a far deeper question and a far deeper subject than just exchanging the means of the exchange. But anyway, for tonight, everybody, be happy. The Federal Reserve is no more. An awful lot of our gold and silver has been recovered. It's still in the hands of Donald Trump. And that means it's in the hands of the military. It is not yet subject to our civilian authority, which it should be. But it's at least a step in the right direction.
I can't help but hearing the, do you remember in The Wizard of Oz when the Wicked Witch was finally, they finally threw water on the Wicked Witch of the West, and at some point the Munchkins were dancing around singing, ding dong, the witch is dead, witch, old witch, the wicked witch. Ding dong, the wicked witch is dead, right? So,
Yep. Yes.
we can say that about the Federal Reserve.
Yes.
The witch is dead. Okay.
Witch is dead.
Right.
And we can step back and we can remember that moment in the movie where Glinda, the good witch of the North, says, "Be gone, you have no power here," because that's coming up too. I'm going to be in my little tutu with my crown and my blonde wig and my little, dismissive gesture,
That's right.
because that is coming too.
That is absolutely right. We'll be celebrating. And that doesn't mean we get to take our foot off the pedal. You know what I mean?
No.
Just because
No.
we did the poor man's car wash, with the squeegee at the gas station when we've all been there, right? Where we wash our car with the squeegee. No, it's time for the nitty gritty and getting down to business. And so, but sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Anna. But
No, you're right. No, absolutely. This is where the mop and bucket brigade goes nuclear. This is where we get into the corners. This is where we look at all the really grimy stuff. Speaking of grimy stuff, there is a lot of evidence that the British Crown and Mr. Epstein and all of these yahoos have really been deeply involved in eugenics. Remember when the Nazis were all about the Ubermensch, the Superman, Remember that? And they had these concentration camps? Well, it turns out that the British are the ones who invented concentration camps during the Boer Wars in Africa, okay? And it turns out that eugenics was a British idea too. And that it was supported by, guess who? Lord Purebright of the Purebright Institute. And also by Cecil Rhodes. Okay. Okay, so we're coming back to the same conclusion. We've circled all the way around the block, and all the things that the Nazis were accused of were actually created by the British, and the British did not stop. They continued this focus on eugenics long after the war and still to this day. And so some of the most disturbing news that's come out of British intelligence in recent weeks is that the old Queen, Elizabeth II, before she died, authorized genetic engineering on the baby of Prince William and Kate Middleton, so that Charlotte is carrying ancient Anunnaki DNA that was added to her zygote. So that little girl is part Anunnaki and is supposedly carrying genes that not only ramp up her immune system and give her a longer life, but increase her memory capacity and do other things. And so the Queen authorized genetic engineering on her own granddaughter without the consent or knowledge of the parents. And that is creating, well, as you can imagine, just imagine being told that your little girl has been tinkered with and that her grandmother allowed this. So anyway, that's one of the really nasty things that has been coming out And again, it's this pursuit of the Superman, the Ubermensch, the Barbie doll, whatever, that somebody values above and beyond something else. And it all leads to homogeneity of the genome, which would be a death sentence. And so, anyway, very disturbing, and all circling around the whole topic of eugenics, which got started in the 19th century and then got paired up with genetic engineering, and here we are. So that's another deeply disturbing philosophical, religious, and scientific topic that we're going to have to delve into and really look at. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't consider someone who would tinker with their granddaughter as somebody that I would say was superior in heart or intellect. Okay, so it's sort of like one man's trash is another man's treasure. One man's opinion of what's superior and what is superior in another sense are two different things, and one is not necessarily better than the other. So I think that we need to have this discussion, and we need to be aware that there are people who are crazy enough to think that they have a right to interfere with and tinker with the human genome. And those people have to be rooted out. They have to be found. They have to be stopped. And this evil meme, you remember, we have genes and we have memes, right? We have these little DNA particles that dictate some things, but then a lot of the evil that we inherit are evil ideas that aren't taken out by the root. Okay, well, we're going to have to face the meme of eugenics for all that it implies. And we're going to have to come up with ways of actually enforcing control over these mad scientists and these crazy people who are bent on, trying to breed a better human.
Well, this whole thing about eugenics I think it really is a timely topic because of what they did during the COVID-19 mRNA experiment and all the ways that they were messing with the RNA of,
right?
And you in all of your, and I'm not trying to, fluff you up or anything, Anna, but you had brilliance in thinking about when we did when all the 50 states participated on electing the public law, putting an end to even the possibility of messing with our DNA. That was, you were way ahead of the curve because you saw the long-term potential consequences of this program that they were rolling out, right? But I think that there needs to be like that next layer. The state assemblies may need to take that next step, because just as what you're talking about, the next step is this whole eugenics thing.
Right.
The layperson who was not paying attention to all of the pedophilia stuff that was coming out in I think it was 2016, 2017, it's starting to become a little bit more mainstream now. People are actually like, wow, with these Epstein files. So some of it, like you and many others, we were like early adopters to finding out how bad it really is out there.
Right. And we always sound like we're nuts when we first see it, but the tin hats have a perfect score so far. Just think about that. It's at least, tin hats 100 and the common wisdom 0.
That's exactly right. I know we're going to need to wear our tin hats to protect ourselves from all the electromagnetic chaos and the EMFs and all the chemtrails and the geoengineering and all the things, right? Pretty soon we're going to have to be walking around in full body tin, It won't just be a tin hat. It will be like the Tin Man. We'll be walking around trying to be trying to survive this mess. But I do think that with the eugenics, you know, agenda, I'll call it the eugenics agenda. Every state assembly should really get involved in making sure that we can protect the next generation from this nightmare, because people are dropping dead. I don't know if it's happening in your neighborhood, but it's happening all over the place. We're really starting to see the consequences of the rollout of the COVID vaccine program.
Well, remember, Pfizer did studies where all the participants in their studies were dead within 7 years.
Right. And wasn't it, you even wrote an article about it back then. I think it was the DOD was even made aware of the fact that there was a 7-year lifespan on these folks.
Right. Right. And so what's happening in China is very, very disturbing. I mean, they've lost half their people, probably going on toward 3/4. And in China, you have to understand, was always a country that was both blessed and cursed by its geography. It's got this big desert in the western part of China, and it's got kind of Siberian taiga for part of it, in the highlands where it's very mountainous and cold. And then they have these big river valleys that kind of cut like knives through these mountain ranges to the sea. And, that's why they have the Three Gorges Dam and everything. And there isn't all that much arable land for the population that they have. And there aren't that many energy resources. So they've always been dependent on importing food and energy from elsewhere. And that has been a problem for China forever. But the thing that counterbalanced for China is that they had a workforce. And under the Communist Party in the early days, the big push was to develop the workforce. Have the most industrious, most productive, best workforce in the world, and hire out that workforce to make products. And so essentially that's what they did. They developed a very successful workforce. People that would come to work and work hard and be productive and so that's what they had going for them, was their intelligence. And that's what Ronald Reagan saw and took advantage of, was that they could do a lot of their work over in China. But now they've lost their greatest gift, their greatest resource. They've lost their people. And in losing their people, they've lost their culture. They're in the process of losing everything, their language. In this case, that was doubly so, because they didn't have vast resources of land or fuel or anything like that.
Well, you let us know a little while ago, many times actually, that that's sort of the next host nation, right? That the Brits were going to be going after China as their next,
advantage of that workforce. But then when it was discovered and it started being talked about, and the Chinese government was put on notice, and we started waving and saying, hey, look at what they're trying to do here. Well, then China, they didn't want to be used by these cretins. And so China backed away from being involved in that. And that's when China got hit with their revenge, which was the injections. And the thing with Ukraine was a fallback. Ukraine was plan B. If they couldn't go to China, they were going to go to Ukraine. You know, Ukraine was already staged out as the next host down the line. And so when they did this to China, then that's why the big emphasis on Ukraine. That's is that, you know, that was their backstop. Just a second, guys. I have to take this call.
Sure thing, Anna. Go ahead.
Michelle, in the meanwhile, you want to have the one man who had something to share about a big win. Maybe he could share that with us. Just an idea.
You know what? That's a great idea, Michael. If I'm not mistaken, that was Maurice Green. Maurice, do you want to share that big win while we're waiting for Anna? Is Maurice still on?
Is that about the TSA matter? I'm going to need that for evidence of my redress.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Christy had a sample of a win from a man from Pennsylvania saying that now our credential cards work with the TSA for travel. And I wanted that citation so that I could get a redress going with the TSA.
Awesome. Thank you, Christopher. I don't know if she's on the call. It looks like Anna's done with her call, though. Back to you, Anna.
Okay. So we've got things to think about. We've got the idolatrous nature of money and the fact that we're going to go for the full clean. We're not going to just stop with liberty. We're going to go all the way for our freedom. We're going to be talking about money, what money is and what it isn't, and how it could be appropriately managed or not. We're going to be talking about eugenics and how this evil idea has been the cause of so much pain and suffering in the world. We're going to talk about our ongoing need to stick together and to find common ground with each other. And those are going to be kind of the common topics for the next few weeks, probably. And we will be talking about more things for the assemblies to do in terms of adopting public laws, adding to the public law we already have, and getting a better grounding and understanding about that. It's an ongoing important part of our job to protect our people using our public law and our ability to actually pass public laws. So all of that is going to be part of the mix here. All right, so we want to go to questions.
Yeah, we've got 9 hands up right now, Anna. And from my view, I know sometimes people wonder, why did I call on that particular man or woman? But on my view, Ryan on Missouri is up first. Go ahead, Ryan.
Okay.
Hello, Anna. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. What's happening?
Well, Missourians have a few questions for you, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The first is elected marshal at arms. Do we need to be vetted by the Federation, or is there a process there for us that we should talk to you or? Joe Hayes? I'm not sure.
Okay, what's weird, Anna, is you're not muted, but I can't hear you. If you can see your Zoom menu, Anna, on the bottom left, there should be an audio emoji thing. It's like it says audio, and right next to it is a little caret up. And if you click on that caret, then there should be an audio settings button that you can click. And then when you click it, it opens up another window, and at the very bottom it says input volume. And then from there you could slide it to the right to turn the volume up for the rest of us to be able to hear you. I don't know why it does that sometimes when I mean, we heard you perfectly fine just a few minutes ago.
Sometimes leaving and coming back is the only way I've found.
That's an option too. Thanks, Rebecca. You want to try that, Anna? You still have the link handy to be able to hop back on?
Does that help?
Yay, there you are. Perfect. Okay, so Ryan's question was in regards to vetting for marshal at arms.
Right? Normally the marshal at arms is vetted by the Federation. It's done by the Continental Marshals.
So is there somebody that we would need to touch base with to be able to get that accomplished? I know I thought at one point that the Continental Marshals had quit vetting, at least what I read.
For state positions, generally, yes. The idea was that they would teach the state assemblies how to do vetting, and then the state assemblies would be responsible for vetting their positions. But when it comes to coordinators and marshals at arms, those are still Federation positions. And so we still have to do the vetting for them. And I'm not sure how many people are now available or where they are to do the vetting, but Shannon would know.
Okay. Well, we'll send him an email then. And then I know back in the fall, and the second question here would be, back in the fall, we were getting ready to hopefully meet with you on Missouri with our two different factions going on. we're hoping to still have that meeting as soon as you have time. I know your time is valuable. So whenever you have that, we would love that here in Missouri.
Okay.
And we're having trouble with figuring out the committees and coordinating, because we're not getting a lot of help on that end, even cooperation at all. But one of the questions we also have is on the background checks for state committees. Can that be done by the state? Can the state contract with their own background company, or does that still need to go through the Federation background?
Well, we have several different companies that do background checks for us at differing levels and degrees. And there was one that was recommended to the state assemblies for their purposes for elected officials and other leadership positions of trust. And I don't have that information right on my desktop here to share with you, but there are companies that are recommended for the states to do background checks. And they're less expensive than the Federation process. But, basically, we're just looking to make sure that people don't have obvious criminal records that would indicate that they shouldn't be in a particular position. Like someone who has a conviction for embezzlement being the state treasurer is the example I use. We want to avoid those sorts of situations. But yeah, there are a couple of companies, and again, Shannon would be the one to talk to.
Okay, we'll check with him, and then the last thing I'll leave you with, related to one of your notices recently, the U.S. Congress, can they create law, what they call law, for the congressional record? So I know they have their 18 or 19 enumerated powers, but can they just come up with the law, put it on the record for 3 times, and then call it good, and we have to obey that?
No, they still have to stay within their realm. They still have to stay within their delegated authority. But you need to understand that they've been operating beyond their delegated authority for a long time. And so it is our responsibility to catch them up when they come forward and do something that's outside their delegated authority. Then it's our turn to raise our hand and say, hey, wait a minute, we didn't delegate that to you. And that's how that works. Now, most of the time they cannot, well, think about this. They have a 2,000-page bill. How are they going to read that into the congressional record? They can't. They can't do it once, much less 3 times. So the way the thing is designed is to make sure that the bills that apply to people are kept simple and straightforward, and that they can be read into the congressional record 3 times. All right? So most of what they pass, all these humongous bills like the NDAA and all the rest of it, are passed under the presumption that they apply only to their British territorial and municipal citizens. And then they just, misapply it to everybody, as if there was nobody else here. And this is the crux of the matter, is how they've been getting away with this, is they make up laws for themselves and then they misapply it to everybody else. This is their trick. This is the whole shtick. And this is what I keep talking about, and this is what I keep bringing forward to the courts, the high courts. Look at what these guys are doing. What they're doing is a capital crime. And just because it's been going on for 160 years doesn't lessen it. It's still a capital crime, and it's still fraud. So obviously, what they need to do and work toward is to demote the crime as a fraud scheme that they were unaware of. Because if it wasn't a fraud scheme that they were unaware of, then it's a capital crime, and it's time to bring out the guillotines and the firing squads. So if I had a choice between, it being taken as a fraud scheme and me being unaware of it, I would certainly take that option. Anyway, no, they cannot possibly read in all these different laws. And certainly the rulings of the Supreme Court, which are based on the opinions of the justices, are not law for us. Think about that. Their decisions are law for who? For our government employees. Whose Supreme Court are they? Well, if it's the U.S. Supreme Court, it's the British Territorials, right? And if it's the United States Court, it's obviously the municipal employees. You see how this works? And so, unless they have actually got a law that is in their bailiwick, legitimately in their bailiwick, as actually delegated, right, responsibility, and it's read into the congressional record, you have proof right there that it does not apply to you, Joe Average. And it doesn't matter if it's the state of state version of it or not. But certainly the state of state organizations are under federal law because they're franchises of the corporations. So you see the poop flows downhill. They start out with a federal law, right? But then that federal law has to be regurgitated by the state of state as a franchise of the parent corporation, right? So in this way, federal law has been imposed upon the states. And the states have had, the ability to kind of weasel it around to a certain degree. But certainly, even though they have their individual state statutes, ultimately they are bound to the federal law that prompted the action in the first place. And when the federales come in and really put their feet down, it's like your local Tasty Freeze or local McDonald's or local Dairy Queen franchise. The local operators have a certain amount of freedom in that they can offer specials and they can do special items on their menu and blah, blah, blah. But if they go too far astray from the overall parent corporation plan and presentation, they get taken out. They lose their franchise because they're no longer towing the line that the parent corporation set down. So that's what you're seeing when you see state of state courts and state of state statutes mirroring federal law. It's because they derive it from federal law.
Well, thank you very much, Anna. I will yield. Appreciate all your time.
Take care, dear.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, Rebecca, you're up next. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Hey, thanks, Michelle. Hi, Anna. Hi, everyone. I have a question. Hopefully it's not too long because I have researched it and it has to do with common ground. And the two things that we need in order to be on a state assembly are number one, to be papered up, and number two, to live and be domiciled on that state. When an assembly feels the need to protect, for some reason, that membership to the General Assembly, to the Assembly in general, I should say, they start to make a lot of hoops to jump through or something like that, where for example, the discussion now on my state is about having people sign a contract saying they will follow rules, and also to
No,
yeah, and the
no.
last bit to promise that they won't lie and they won't steal. And I'm like, okay, but thieves also get to be on there, right? Am I right? So anyway, am I on the right track here to include everyone? Thank
Yes,
you.
you
Okay.
are.
Well, that was a quick answer. Thank you.
Yeah, even people who are known felons who've completed their sentence, that's in the past. We don't,
Right.
that's gone. Okay. The only reason that we even look up background and take any of that into account
Carol,
is purely to kind of cover our butts in our administrative role of being responsible and not exposing people to an unreasonable situation like having an embezzler as the state treasurer. But
Right.
that's the only reason that we even do that. They are fully allowed to participate in their government, and this is what people have to understand. It may be my government, but it's also your government. And we
Yeah.
have to be even about that.
And so this protective urge to have a decorum, it's not a contract. It's basically just the basic two rules that you've given before, which is, as an example, be respectful and stay on track with the conversation. That's a general rule that you can keep when you're in a business meeting.
Right.
Otherwise, it's simple, right?
It's very, very simple. It's just, normal, responsible adult civil behavior. When you
Right.
are in a meeting, you don't rage and shout and swear. I know sometimes it gets to a point where you just want to kill somebody, right? You want to reach through the screen and go. But no, you're supposed to make every effort to maintain a calm and respectful and on target, on topic discourse.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So no contracts needed. Thank you so much.
No contracts needed. And basically, I think I laid out this past week the four things that really do justify muting someone. Did you see that, Rebecca?
Yes, I did. And yeah, that mute button, it's a hot button, and it's kind of unfortunate that we even have it too much. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Drunk and disorderly. Someone shows up drunk and is obviously in their cups and is ranting and raging. Okay, mute them. Somebody shows up and they're angry and they're name calling and making, out of the thin air accusations. Mute them. Somebody is off track, off topic, talking about something totally off the agenda. Go ahead, tell them, okay, I'm sorry, you're way off the topic here. And if they don't get back on, mute them. If somebody if we've agreed that everybody gets 5 minutes and they're talking for 10, and you after 5 minutes you say, okay, well, your 5 minutes are up, and they just keep going for more than a few seconds, mute them. Those sorts of things are just so normal and so taken for granted in basic business meetings, which public meetings are. So those are the four things. And if somebody is just arbitrarily muting someone because they don't like what they're saying or because they have a different opinion, no, that's censorship. That is not allowed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then the protocol would just be maybe the martial at arms might speak with them afterwards and explain to them why they were muted, or they get muted for 15 minutes and then they get to come back on if they do it again. I mean, that's the stuff we talk about, but otherwise, yeah, that makes absolute sense just to keep us moving along and, no one's getting their feelings hurt because someone's got an issue.
Right. And besides that, just because you get muted on one topic, say that you went over your time, doesn't mean that you are muted for the entire meeting and can't speak to other topics.
Right. Yeah, what quick last question, not to take any more time on this, but just if we have heard that the General Assembly is a business meeting only and only reports can be heard, when will the discussion for those who don't come to the committees come if we can't have a discussion then? Seems like as long as it's given a little place to comments or discussion for 10 minutes after the presentation. No?
No. Look,
Okay.
you have the General Assembly meeting. This is where everybody shows up, right?
Right.
The committee has gone off and researched its topic or, looked at the options. The committee comes back and says, okay, well, this is what we did. We looked at this and this and this and this, and we found out that this wasn't a good option because, and we found out that wasn't a good option because, and so we recommend the third option, and here's why. And then the General Assembly has its options to ask questions, right, from the committee. And then the General Assembly gets to vote on it. The final boom comes from the General Assembly, not the committee.
Yeah. Thank you. Yep, that's what I understand. And also that there are no votes per se that make decisions on the assembly, the law per se, but those votes in a committee are basically just within the committee aligning with their research and saying, well, this looks like the best option to put forward. That's not a vote for the law on the land and soil. That's just what that committee is bringing forward, correct?
Right. The committee brings forward its recommendations to the General Assembly. The General Assembly has to act, and they can also table it. The General Assembly can go thumbs up. We concur with the committee and we're going to adopt that course of action, or thumbs down. We don't agree with the committee at this time. We're sending it back to committee for more research on this, or we're tabling it for 2 weeks and we'll enter into discussion about this at the regularly scheduled meeting 2 weeks from now, to give everybody a chance to read the committee findings and to make up, be prepared. Okay. There are all sorts of big topics that come up and you just can't make a decision, boom, right now. Because you need time to research it and look at it. And so the traditional way to do it, if it's a complex question, is to table it for a later date and then give everybody some time to look at it and come back and address it on the agenda a little bit down the track.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Rebecca. Okay, next up we have Rocky on Nevada. Go ahead, Rocky.
Hey, how you doing, Michelle? Hi, Anna.
Hi.
Anna, in your Monday night call, you were talking about the people that took your house or whatever, ransacked it for 5 days or whatever. My question is, did you actually get your house back?
On paper.
On paper?
It's on paper. It's more complex because I made my situation the anchor baby for everybody else in the same situation. So it's determined that they had no jurisdiction, that they had no valid basis for complaint. It was determined that they failed to, they dishonored my claim for remedy without any investigation, without any that they never took the remedy that was available to them. So they had no right to say that I had any debt to them. All that stuff kind of got cleared up. The Supreme Court said, nonsense, that's an illegal taking. Okay. But I said, okay, it's time for this to end. It's time for this to end for everybody. And so we're taking it in as a diplomatic cause to put an end to the district court system, which has been abused and used as a means of illegally seizing American property and alleging chattel rights on American property. And all the rest of the evils that we've seen has been accomplished by the district courts. And if you think about it, district courts belong where? In the District of Columbia. They do not belong here in the states of the Union. And so these foreign forms of law have been improperly imposed upon us. They have subjected us to foreign forms of law and haven't even bothered to tell us that, hey, we're subjecting you to a foreign form of law, so that you haven't even had a chance to be able to reply. And they've run this as a one-stop shop where everybody involved was in conflict of interest, because they were serving your interests and their cronies' interests and their employees' interests at your expense. And so now the big deal issue is get rid of the district courts that have been used and abused in this way to confiscate property from Americans under false pretenses and false claims. Because what it really comes down to is that they were supposed to give you the option at your discretion of extending more credit to them in the form of FRNs or requiring a debt swap. And I required a debt swap that they didn't give me, that they did not honor, that they did not notate, which made it appear that I owed them a debt. And that was the basis of their illegal seizure. You see, their failure to provide remedy is what's at the heart of it. And what the district court did was to dishonor their obligation to provide that remedy. And they did it by a fraudulent means. They did it by aggravated identity theft. And they didn't do their job, their obligation that they were honor bound to. And so I'm saying to hell with it. We're getting rid of the district courts. We're just going to, tear it out by the roots and be done with it, so that everybody who has suffered eviction under these same false pretenses gets satisfaction. To hell with the IRS. There's never going to be another IRS case in this country if I have anything to say about it. And believe me, I do. Now that the Federal Reserve is down, we're going to go after the kill. We're going to kill the IRS. We're going to kill the municipal IRS. We're going to kill the Internal Revenue Service. Both of them are going to be dead dogs within the week. And, we're just going to keep on with the mop and bucket. This is mop and bucket stuff. This is, we're going to take the sponges and the vinegar water and we're going for it, folks. The bleach is out of the closet. And, this, we're going to clean the whole mess. We're not going to stop with, Anna gets her house back. No. We're going to go for everybody gets their house back. And they're going to, there's going to be this whining and squealing and screaming and all these poor people that have bought these houses under false pretenses. Well, that's just too damn bad. Because their issue is with the government, not with us. Right? The government never had a valid claim to begin with. The government corporation is at fault. So any problem that they have having bought property under false presumptions is whose fault? Not mine, not yours, theirs. They're the ones that created the whole situation. So as the originators of the problem, it goes back to the same organizations that created the problem in the first place by making false claims and by failing to provide remedy that was owed. So this is going to take a little bit longer, but the end result is going to be overturning a very venal, coercive, ugly system that has harmed millions of Americans and has evicted millions of families and has resulted in the de facto enslavement of free people in their own country by an illegal and clandestine occupation by mercenaries. Okay, so we're not going to just sit around and go, oh, well, we'll put out the brush fires. We'll keep, trying to get some little itty bitty resolve or remedy. Maybe a few widows will gain mercy from our English captors. No, we're going to go after them. They are just up to their hocks in completely illegal actions, completely breach of trust, breach of service contract. They are in commercial default. They are in commercial fraud. I mean, no, we're going to go for the gusto, guys. We're going to go all the way. We're going to get rid of the district courts. We're going to get rid of the IRS. We're going to get rid of the iron boot on our neck that we're paying. They've been taking their pay from our pockets while they've been oppressing us and shaking us down. And this has now gotten to the point where we're just going to keep cleaning.
I love it. If I had the chance to stick it to them like that, and I would lose my house over it, I would do it. I mean, it's like, yes, exactly. So my hat's off to you. Love it. The next thing, with you're talking about losing houses and all that kind of stuff. I talked to you a little bit about, we have quite a few people here coming up in our assembly that are, they've lost their houses or they're just getting to where they're homeless now. And my last meeting, in the meeting, I had a few of these people speak about their hard times and stuff like that. And one of my questions to you is that appropriate in our meetings to actually try to help these people or let them talk about?
Absolutely. But we're here for each other. That's why we're here. We can't always do a whole lot, but we can try and we can look for opportunities and we can look for options for people that they may not be aware of themselves. And, I brought up with you how Jim and I had our own ersatz little home for homeless men back in the day. And there are all sorts of things you can do. You can, look around your community. What churches do they belong to? What sorts of services are available?
Right.
Well,
we've had a few people, because like the one lady, her car broke down, her radiator, blew out, and she was home. She become homeless. She was living in her van. You know what I'm saying? So I physically bought her a radiator so she could start driving and work and all that kind of stuff. And I also took her out a couple of times and bought her food and that kind of stuff. So those are some of the things I think we can do is if we can afford it. But a lot of us are strapped too on what we can actually do. And like some of the people on there brought up that there was a automotive place in town that could really help take care of these people, and they're real cheap and that kind of stuff. And I think finding these resources are viable right now for our assemblies because of the problems people are having.
Absolutely. And, part of the whole reason that we have an assembly is so that we get to know each other and we get to know what we're going through and we get the opportunity to help. I mean, the whole basis of a community government is the community, right?
Right.
And so it's almost like a non-sectarian, non-ecumenical, non-religious aid organization that everybody can belong to. And you can get together and help your neighbors and reach out and be aware of each other. Ideally, the militia is supposed to be aware of where people live and what problems they have. If they have, elderly family members, that require care, if they have a lot of small children, we're supposed to know each other as neighbors, as part of the population that is together. It's supposed to be community based.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
like the one lady I was talking about, whatever, it's one of the things, Michael Wilson, which is supposed to be our militia commander, he contacted our sheriff here in Clark County and notified us because this lady talked to him. And I believe that's what they're supposed to be doing, is trying to help and let us know of the issues. So as assembly, we could fix them. Right.
Yeah, and
or try anyway.
Think of this in terms of public safety.
Mm-hmm.
It's not safe for her to be living in her car. Okay.
True.
And so she's in a position where she's unnecessarily exposed to a situation that's not only uncomfortable for her, but it's literally unsafe.
True.
Okay, so it is a public safety issue. And it's one that we can't ignore.
I agree.
And not nearly the emphasis has been put on this that needs to be put on it. But, and Rocky, I talked to you about this from the heart because it's a problem that has concerned me for many years. Obviously, my husband and I were running a homeless shelter for homeless men back in the 90s. So, and we probably would still be doing it if we hadn't had a wildfire disaster that burned the shelter and our house down. But anyway, the attitude that I've taken toward all of this, and I had to after years of experience. You put out the brush fires, and then there's just 10 more brush fires. You can exhaust your resources, you can exhaust yourself, you can drown in piles of paper that are basically fraudulent and meaningless. Or you can go after the arsonists.
Exactly.
And so my attitude is that this is a diplomatic issue and that they're the arsonists. And my job is to go after the arsonists. And the job of the assemblies is to help me go after the arsonists, yes, but also to try to help the people at the assembly level in whatever ways they can, because we are in this together. This is our country. This is our community.
Well, the way I look at it is we're all brothers and sisters in this world. And if you can't count on, our brothers and sisters helping, who can you count on? You know what I'm saying? We got to do this,
Okay. Let's get somebody else to talk, Rocky.
Okay. I'll yield. Thank you very much. I was just making sure I wasn't doing anything, by speaking up in our assemblies.
No, and we can always do the right thing. People get all caught up in protocol and law and statute. The true law is written on your heart.
Great. Anyway, I'm going to yield so other people can talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rocky. And next up, we have Mike McGowan. And before we go to Mike, Anna, one of the things I realized is I forgot to get what time you need to get off the call by. It's 6:34 California time. So it's 5:34 your time. What time do you need, or how long do we have you for?
Well, I figured that I could give up to up to 6 o'clock.
Great. Okay, good. So we have like another 25 minutes. That's perfect. Okay. All right, Mike McGowan, you're up. Go ahead.
Hi, Anna. Thanks for answering my questions the other day. I sometimes come across harsh on the when I type, and not my point, but I'm just trying to nail Jello to the wall, as it seems, and try to get more people here on my county out here in Colorado. This has created a division in my family and friends and everybody else that, just kind of waiting on the sidelines and don't believe and everything else. So whatever we can do to try to find things that will help out so that they can actually see things would just be so wonderful. But I appreciate you trying, and I love the article that came out with the stamp, your seal on it, as well as the Federation seal. So I think that'll be a wonderful piece to add to our arsenal. And going in two directions, one thing I thought was I would like to get and I submitted a Freedom of Information Act for the indemnity bonds that you did. And they've kind of been him-hawing. But is there a place in the Treasury where they would know that they have it and have to respond to the request?
Well, of course it's lodged in the Treasury, Mike.
Yeah, but
you can go online and see that it's lodged in the Treasury. Just go to USTreasury.gov and you can look that up for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know where you would find it.
I already gave everybody that information and the address, the URL, everything. It's already in the massive, just go to annabonrights.com, Paul Stramer's site, and use the search engine.
Right. I've seen the number of it, and I'm just trying to get them to admit that they have it.
It's not the number of it. I'm talking about go to the Treasury website, bring it up, type the number in, and it will affirm for you that yes, it's there.
Oh, okay. I'll try it again. I didn't realize that you could go there. I've read a number of articles and things, and I've seen you refer to it, but I didn't realize you could find it on the Treasury. So
yes.
That's wonderful. I went the back way to do it. And then the other thing is, as we're doing things, is it possible if we're addressing the man? We have a lot of people pretending they're dead things, and we know they're not. So can you address the man that hears the truth and is not, is just walking over the top of it and continuing to act like a pirate without law? And their office, which would be the international or even the national jurisdiction in dead land, dead water, dead air. If you address them both and hold them jointly and severally liable, it would seem that if we started hitting these crooks in the pocket where their office and their and the man is hit, then if they're going to be getting millions are due them, but yet they're acting like idiots and not behaving, then it would seem an idea to withhold the the ability to get it through global. Is it possible that we could have an article that says, well, this is what's coming, and so you're going to have more money probably getting access through the global bank to the what's owed to you versus what you have in the existing de facto system that is all due under the bankruptcy to pay the living men.
Well, ideally, what happens is that all those public trusts get converted into assets and It's all part of your estate, Mike. So even, we think about this in terms of you've got your American estate, you've got the British Territorial Seamen's estate, and you've got the Roman Inferior Trust public estate, okay, municipal estate. All of those estates are yours. All of them. The only difference is that they're different jurisdictions, okay, and so they contain different assets. You understand?
Yeah, oh yeah, I get that. I'm
Okay,
just saying
okay.
that if you have a judge that looks you square in the face and says, "Well, I don't believe any of this," and throws you in jail or takes your property or whatever, then it would seem that you could then
You could
notice him,
appeal it.
whatever. Pardon?
In cases like that, what I recommend is that you appeal it. Because as you appeal it and it goes up the food chain, you're going to get to a judge who knows what's going on, and he's going to go, oh shit. So you appeal anything like that. If you get hold of a judge who looks at you and says, well, I don't know, this is the way we always did it and the way we're always going to do it. Well, appeal it. And just appeal it on up the food chain, because you are going to get to a judge finally who knows what's going on, sees how you've been mistreated, sees that their lower underlings have not honored remedies that you were owed, and that you are in fact the person who is the owner of all these other things, right?
Right.
One of the things that I'm going after in my sphere is the copyrights that the British Crown Corporation took on all our given names. That was part of what they did as a means to gain control of us, was to copyright our given names and to hold those copyrights, which is grossly improper. Grossly improper. And so one of the things that I'm going after is the copyright to our given names to be returned to our government as part of your public property. Because, you use your given name in public, right? That's how you're identified. That's how people know how to call you and identify you. Okay, so it is your property, but it's public property owned in private. All right. Now, what the British Crown has done is they've latched onto your given name and copyrighted it as property belonging to the British Crown. Okay? And that's absolutely screw loose. They have no right to do that. And so, I'm coming back after them for the return of your given name to the government, to our government, right? To the United States of America, at which point it's part of your public property. When I say public property, I'm telling you all that you have an estate, right? You have both private property and public property. You don't have just one, you have two, and you go after both. So your name, your given name, is part of your public property assets. And that's something that I have to go have a little talk with British Crown Corporation about. They've glommed on to everybody's names, and they've had a rubber stamp to use everybody's name as a result of taking a copyright on it. But they had no right to take a copyright on it, and they had no right to assume that our government did not protect that, because our government is the public government, your public government, that should hold that given name in trust. Not the king, not the queen. Our government is the proper owner, caretaker of your public trust, right? Your public name is part of your public property. So Anyway, that is a biggie. That's right up there with getting rid of the Federal Reserve and the IRS and all these other evils that have been visited upon us. But anyway, remember that all of those different estates are yours. And once you have claimed back your American estate, then you are in line to claim back your territorial estate and your air jurisdiction estate. And the little game that they've had going is that they force you to address the air jurisdiction estate first instead of second. They bring their charges in the municipal courts. And then if you get beyond the municipal courts, you disqualify the municipal court, however you may do it, and you get to the British territorial court, then they have the copyright to your name and they just administer things however they like, according to the quote unquote discretion of the judge. And that's the ownership interest that they presume against you in the territorial courts. And it's one of the reasons that they have a 96% conviction ratio, because they just have arbitrary power over your name in the territorial courts. So people look at this and they say, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? And you know, they don't realize that they're relying upon the discretion of an individual judge in the first place. And number two, that judge, in all likelihood, has been compromised in order to get into his position, so that he is owned by someone or something, usually some sort of real estate contractor or you know, business mogul in the back. And so you're playing into an arbitrary scenario, in a situation where the judge owns the copyright to your name and you're not even aware of that. And so he can dispose of your property under that name any way he pleases. And he in turn is being commandeered and coerced and operated by those who have compromised him. You see, it's just a dirty rigged system. There's no way that you can beat it in the current situation, except almost by accident. I mean, there's a 4% chance that you can win. If you want to spend all your time and money and effort and waste yourself doing that, have at it, and I'm glory in the grit of those who do. But I don't have time for that. I'm going after the copyright. I'm going after the British Crown. Right. I'm going to go after it for all of us, not just me. I'm going to go after the copyrights of all Americans who have been latched upon illegally and immorally.
And will they have to produce that they have yielded to those demands? I mean, will we start seeing those things come out?
I'll come on and announce it. I'll just tell you flat out, okay, guys, we got all our names back from the British Crown.
Well, yeah, I get that, and I believe that, but the people around that don't know you, haven't followed you for 3 years or more, then they, they're like those soldiers on Okinawa after World War II that kept shooting because they didn't know that the peace had been declared,
Well, you heard about the Federal Reserve. It was in the mainstream media. This will be in the mainstream media too. They're going to shortly be announcing the end of the IRS. And awesome. if you ever thought of, people all over this country are going to be celebrating, and they won't know that it was Grandma in Big Lake, Alaska, going.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's the point that if we could drive home the message, that's where the rub lies. I'm trying to get that, because I think so many people we could use a lot more help, but everybody's afraid and everybody thinks it's too big, and and um, crazy.
Put it to them the way I put it to you. Put it to them the way that I had to come to it.
Yeah.
that if you don't do something about it, you're an accomplice to the crime.
Yeah. Well, and I tried doing that with sending out some statements in the form of affidavits and plain tell them, I'll make claim against you if you don't want your assets and property, I'll take it. And and then they're like, well, we're not going to do anything, and you're crazy, and that doesn't help. They just feel threatened, and then they back down.
No, I mean when people in your, I got to take this. Sorry, guys, just a second.
That's okay, Anna. Okay, while Anna's getting that, one of the things I wanted to say, Mike, is when any of us give a notice or we do a declaration or something in the form of an affidavit and we send it off, if it is unrebutted, then that's the thing that's important to note, because an unrebutted declaration,
Yeah.
an affidavit, or unrebutted
That
notice.
is true.
Yeah. And so, in fact, Louise Anthony had a video that she did in regards to getting her employer, I'm using that term not in the quote legal sense, but in the more common language sense. She got them to acquiesce because there were all these unrebutted notices that she had done.
I mean, I've been sending statements in the form of the affidavit to the Lord Mayor of London, King Charles, and the new Pope, and they've acquiesced to everything. I'm like, well, they're not even acknowledging, Supreme Court. I mean, I've been hitting them all, and they just acquiesce to everything, and they don't care. Meanwhile, they take your assets, and they come on your property with sheriffs and think that everything is theirs, and it's like, no, you acquiesced, and it's like, God, let's learn some rule of law at least. But it's not fun to sit in jail and speak the truth. So it'll be nice when we have some pieces that we can say, yeah, somebody else agreed with us at some point in life, because the acquiescence is great. We know it's law, but they don't, or they don't admit it, or they act like pirates.
Mike, there are a bunch of ignorant people out there being misdirected by evil people. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So yeah, we're endangered by ignorance all the time.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, yeah.
That doesn't mean that we should acquiesce to it. It doesn't mean that we should subject ourselves to it. We do need to object. I keep telling people, if you don't object, then you agree. If you don't do something against it, then you're an accomplice. It's a black and white kind of thing. You either stand up and say no, or then you're part of it. This is how I got involved in this. This is why, above and beyond my husband's history and his family and everything, I had to get to a point of A, realizing that life wasn't worth living as a slave, and B, that if I didn't do anything about it, I'd be an accomplice to it.
Right.
I'd be enslaving other people.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's my approach, but it falls on deaf ears, unfortunately. But I'll keep trying more ways.
just stand back and watch, because very soon you're going to see that the Federal Reserve is gone and the IRS is gone. And somewhere in that whole mass, the names of Americans are going to be returned to them, and your public and private estate trusts are going to be returned to you. And we are going to get control of the United States Incorporated, which should never have been seized upon by our employees without our knowledge or consent. And a whole bunch of things are going to get straightened out. Now, part of this is going to be me kind of going toe to toe with Mr. Trump, because while it's all well and good for our British territorial brethren to get their part back out of the slush pile, we should not be forced to agree to act as British subjects in order to get ours out of the slush pile. And so there are going to be a lot of tough and meaty arguments going on here. And we're just going to have to hang tough and keep going.
Agreed. I'm in it for the long haul. I appreciate it. I yield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, I just want to do a quick touch base. We have 6 minutes of Anna's time, and the next hand up is David Herrick. Go ahead, David.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. And hello, Anna. It's wonderful to see you. I have 2 really quick, easy questions. I was asked today by someone who was just curious about the Blue Dot Bank system, and because you had told us often that there are, other countries who have banks that are tied into the Blue Dot Bank system, and if I'm right, could you tell us give us the names of a couple of countries that have that?
Well, Australia has it. Ireland has it. England
Wonderful.
has it.
Wonderful.
Germany I believe, has it. I think they either have it already or they're in the process. There have been several. Canada has it.
Wonderful.
So we're beginning to get some of the big national banks organized, and in the meantime, Global is acting as a retail bank, which is something they never expected to, but they are giving you all master accounts so that they can work on this while the national banks are being organized.
Okay, excellent. So my other simple second question is, how do you happen to know so much about the oh shoot, what was darn it? Oh my God. I'll think of that. Maybe come back to me later. So I yield. Thank you so much.
What I do, David, write it down.
I will. I know. Okay. Thank you so much, Anne. It's wonderful to see you, and I yield.
Take care, dear.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Okay, Keith Black. Go ahead, Keith.
Yes. On Monday night, Anna mentioned that we're waiting for the de facto bank to get their ducks in a row. And she said, no, we're not waiting for that. We're waiting for our bank to get their ducks in a row. Can that get clarified, please? Or did I mishear?
Look, no, our bank has got its ducks in the row. Okay, our bank is, they've done their job. What's happening is that literally thousands of banks are going under now. They are faced with an incredible increase in their obligation of holding actual liquid assets to backstop other assets. There's been a redefinition of asset classes. So what happened is that paper silver delivery contracts were downgraded from a tier 1 asset to a tier 3 asset. And each one of these tiers represents whether or not it's a solid, verifiable, valid asset or not. Okay. And the amount of backing that a bank has to have to operate is determined by the value of the assets that it holds. Okay. So suddenly these silver delivery contracts, which had been rated as tier 1 assets, meaning that they were liquid and they were solid and they were considered to be really top grade assets were downgraded to being tier 1 risky business assets. And the bank suddenly had to be able to back all of those assets at 85% with tier 1 assets, which means basically precious metals or cash or something of substance that is on the tier 1 list, or they couldn't continue business. So, okay, just imagine the situation. You're a relatively small bank, and you're holding $1 billion worth of these silver delivery contracts, which means that you have to come up with 850 million in tier 1 assets total to continue to carry that as an asset on your books. Okay, well, gee, I maybe have 10% of that. If I'm an average bank, I've got 10% of what I have to cover on that whole 850 million. So suddenly I have to come up with, 78 million or $780 million extra of tier 1 quality assets in order to keep going. You see how this is going to topple all these banks? Just like dominoes, boom, 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 boom. You see why 2,400 banks closed overnight on Monday? Because they couldn't keep their doors open. They could not make that threshold, and they couldn't find anybody to loan them the money or to loan them the extra metal backing. Because it was all of a sudden boom, and within a matter of days, the delivery contracts were downgraded to a tier 3, and the demand was made, and there they go. And that's why it happened. It isn't to do with whether all of our stuff is all asset backed anyway. We never were in that position. We didn't invest in silver delivery contracts or futures on the COMEX or anything like that. So the Americans are free and away and above all that. We don't have that problem at all. It's their banks that invested in and, ledgered in all of these paper securities. And it was also the fault of the regulatory agencies that rated these things so highly. They should never have been rated as tier 1. They should have always been tier 3. You see what I mean?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. I yield.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, Anna, we're a little bit past 7 o'clock California time, 6 o'clock your time. Do you want me to pull the plug on this? We still have a few hands up.
Well, kids, are you among those who are still here with their hands up? Anybody have a really, truly urgent, important question that has to be answered tonight?
May I?
Sure.
Dorothea doesn't have her hand up, though.
I would like
Okay.
my question answered, please.
Yeah, Anna was saying of the people that have their hand up. Sorry about that, Dorothea. I just want to honor what Anna said.
I would
Renee,
like my question answered, please, if anybody else doesn't step forward.
Yeah,
go ahead.
we would like our question answered as well, if that's okay.
All right, hurry up.
So Anna, I have a procedural clarification question under Articles 5128 and 5747. If someone was not formally placed on a timeout and stepped away voluntarily for a period of time, but later finds their participation or access restricted, what is the proper mechanism for review? And I've reached out to, in writing, to the state coordinator and the Marshal at Arms for clarification in keeping with procedure and transparency, but have not received a response. I want to ensure I am following the correct and respectful next step.
Hey, Renee. So we have a theoretical person who's been on a timeout and now they want to come back and they're not being allowed back.
That's correct.
And what state is this?
Michigan?
Michigan. Well, and would you please send me an email with Michigan as the subject line and the details of who it is and how this all got started? Because anyone who's been on a timeout who completes that timeout should be automatically reinstated without any question or obstacle or further any further question. Because it's sort of like serving your jail time. You've done your stint and you're now free.
Okay, thank you. I yield.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Mike and Danica. Danica.
Hi there. Sorry, this mic is better than the than the other one, so I'm talking on this one. Anyways, thank you so much, Anna. It's always great to see you. Thank you, Michelle. And just curious, Anna, the California Assembly has done the True Bill process that Doug and Christy teach, and Terry came on and talked about the agricultural liens, and our assembly has unanimously said yes, we want to go ahead and do it, but we don't have that experience. And I know I've gone on the site, and for the secured party, I wrote down the California Assembly unincorporated. And we were talking about it last night, and even though everybody agreed, they also had a lot of questions about, are we supposed to do this? It's a UCC. Should we be doing this kind of thing? But I know you go ahead.
I already claimed the entire state for you. And everything attached to it. So there's really no need or reason to do a UCC process again. It's already under agricultural lien. And it's already under cured agricultural lien.
Sure.
So you don't have to individually claim Los Angeles County. Okay.
So it's not that kind of claim though. What it is, it's one's for Gavin Newsom, one which is the state governor, one is for Shirley Weber, which is the state of state Secretary of State, and then one is for Selvi Stanislaus, which is the CEO of the State of California Franchise Tax Board. And what they're doing is they're doing harms against people, and we've noticed them, and then we sent them a true bill. So this is doing an agricultural lien on them personally, and then also on their corporations, so that it hinders their business. That's the point of it. Are you saying forget about it, you don't need to do any of that? We don't have to do any of that? Or is it a good idea to go ahead and do this because they won't stop the franchise tax board? And so this is just a financial tool of enforcement. I mean, or should we just not do it? What are your thoughts?
Well, in the first place, I'd go after the franchise tax board. I wouldn't be fooling around with, going after Gavin Newsom over something like that because he's in a different jurisdiction.
Okay, well, we have Selvi is one of them. The idea was that the Secretary of State is in charge of all the business organizations, and then the governor. So that's why we did those. But I mean, we don't have to, but we do have the CEO and the franchise tax board.
What you really need to do with the franchise tax board and with any other kind of state tax or property tax or anything at the state level is to demand from the Secretary of State, the U.S. Secretary of State, and the State of State Secretary of State remedy. You know, they're supposed to be giving you debt swaps. Okay, so the U.S. Secretary of State needs to be informed that they're dishonoring your right to a mutual offset credit exchange exemption.
Marco Rubio.
Marco Rubio.
So
and
the
then
California
Senate.
Assembly would reach out to Marco Rubio. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because all of this stuff is like Dairy Queens, right?
Yep,
So
franchise.
you've got the local Dairy Queen that is coming after you and you know trying to force you to pay a debt as if you were a franchise of their Dairy Queen, right? And you're not. Okay, so what's the remedy that they had to provide? It was the mutual offset credit exemption exchange. And this is exactly why, you know, this is what I brought up with the Federal Reserve note. This was what legalized the Federal Reserve note, was that they gave us that as remedy, and now they are not giving us remedy. They're trying to block us from getting remedy at the state level, but it's supposed to be available wherever the Federal Reserve note is used. Okay, so they have failed to provide remedy at the federal level. They never set up a program that made any sense. They never, you know, advertised it to the public to make it accessible to the public. They never explained to the public anything about it. And that's why I finally succeeded in overturning the Federal Reserve note, that it was never legalized because they never provided the remedy. Okay, so this is going to have a lot of repercussions besides the nationalization of the Federal Reserve. All right.
Yeah.
But
we just put a pin in it then? We just put a pin in it. Forget about the liens for right now. Should we just hold tight to see what happens with the repercussions of the Federal Reserve notes, or should we go ahead and notice Marco Rubio?
I would notice Marco Rubio and the State Secretary of State.
Which is what we did, which is why we're on the lien process, because she sends everything back, Anna. We already told her to lodge it with the miscellaneous file, and she literally sends the whole package back. They are wily. So, I mean, the agricultural lien is a possible enforcement.
If they send it back, that's proof they received it.
Yeah, I know.
So keep it.
I have it. And guess what else I have is I have the tracking that shows it was delivered.
Amen. You know, they think they're being smart, but they're actually stupid.
I know.
Okay, so all right, fine. Write to Marco Rubio.
Okay.
And inform him kindly that they have dishonored your claim of a mutual offset credit exchange, and you know, take a copy of the envelope that you received back from her office that they returned to you.
Okay.
And insist that this is an issue that needs to be resolved, and either the California Franchise Board needs to be shut down completely and all claims silenced. The proper word is silenced.
Oh, I'll write down the playbacks. Trust me.
And put that on Mr. Rubio's desk with, say, you know, a 10-day reply period.
Okay.
And, you know, he is going to be hearing an awful lot about mutual offset credit exchange exemptions. Okay. And these are relief. This is remedy that was owed to the American people for the last 100+ years that was never given. Right. So I guess what it now means is we're going to reclaim it in gold, but that's fine too. We don't care how it's reclaimed. We just care about it being reclaimed. We care about getting relief for our people. Okay, so this is a diplomatic issue. It's not a court issue. It's not even a claim issue because it's already settled. It's long settled.
Okay. Beautiful.
So, I would just go right after Mr. Rubio and say, hey, they're dishonoring the remedy that we're owed. And we believe that the California Franchise Board has been operating improperly and illegally for a number of years. And I guess you could look up however many years it's been in operation.
Or we could just say since inception.
Right? And so we're here for remedy, and that remedy can either be the dissolution of the California Franchise Board and the California franchise tax, or it can be individual relief for those people who are claiming it. But one way or another, that relief needs to be provided, the remedy and relief. Remedy is for land jurisdiction and relief is for sea jurisdiction.
Okay.
And you want both.
Okay. Okay. So I could theoretically listen to a playback, catch all your words, type it all up, send it over to our head of state. She can go ahead and autograph it and we can get it out. Yeah?
Well, or you can just send it directly because you have the power to do that.
Okay.
And Mr. Rubio will receive the correspondence and he'll probably blanch and then he'll start thinking about, maybe we should shut down the California Franchise Board.
Okay. Okay.
Because think about this. California has been getting away with charging a franchise board tax, right? They've created this tax. Where did they get the authority? They're just a franchise themselves. And I will bet you money that the United States never gave them any kind of special ability to create a franchise of franchise boards, right? I will bet you hard money that the United States Incorporated, nor the United States of America Incorporated, or any of the parent corporations, I will bet you that they never gave California the right to create its own franchises as a franchise.
Or to treat people like they are franchises either.
Right.
And a lot of them don't even have whatever they're supposed to have through the Secretary of State to be an actual business either. They didn't even do whatever they were supposed to do to get that sorted out properly.
No, they often don't. They often don't follow their own rules.
Right.
So I don't believe, I've looked into it before, and I have never found anything that suggests that the franchise organized as the state of California Incorporated was ever given any kind of authority to form franchises. So that's another point that you can bring up with Mr. Rubio, that you are unable to find any instance in the law suggesting that the state of California Incorporated as a franchise itself was given any authority to create franchises for itself. And I believe that you'll find that what's going to happen is when they realize that the state of California has been running a sort of a separate subsidiary and has been forming franchises board, I think that what you're going to see is that the parent corporation or the trustees for the parent corporation, whichever it is at that point, are going to go, oh, hell no. That's our turf. They can't milk our cows.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
Not like stop, you're doing the wrong thing, but like cough it up. Where's my cut?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's what they're going to do. You can bet your booby on it that they're going to be after the cash, and they're going to be going, what the heck? You guys shouldn't be operating like this. You don't have any right to create more franchises for yourself. You can't go into our business. You're cutting into our turf. I'll bet you any money that once they really realize that the parent corporation will shut them down faster than you can blink.
Yeah, they're going to go, wait, you stole our fraud.
Right.
Right. You stole our fraud. You're milking our cows. You don't get to get that cream. No. You know, yeah, go ahead.
And this isn't something that our assembly has to elect on because this is self-evident. We could literally get this up before our next meeting and get it out.
You don't have to get any permission from anybody to go after Marco Rubio.
Right.
Okay.
But as an assembly,
you should bring it forward to the assembly and say, look, we don't see that there's any authority for the California tax board, franchise tax board to exist. They don't have the right to franchise when they're a franchise.
Right, but we need to get approval from the assembly before we send out something to Marco Rubio on behalf of the assembly, or is that
on behalf of the assembly? Yes, you have to get the assembly to agree.
Yes. Okay, perfect.
But there's nothing stopping you individually.
Right.
No, grandma could get mad and go.
Oh yeah, we've already noticed Marco Rubio and the whole gang from our household. You know what I mean? But it's really good to do it from the assembly as well, because then it creates that umbrella for all of us.
Absolutely. And that way you are on the record saying, this entire group, don't recognize any authority for the California tax franchise operation. And as a franchise itself, we don't believe that you authorized this. Oh, and by the way, we're owed remedy. Anywhere that has to use the Federal Reserve note is owed remedy. And that remedy is still standing. So if Mr. Trump thinks that just by taking over the Federal Reserve and taking over the Federal Reserve note, that he's off the hook, no, it doesn't work that way. When you take over that Federal Reserve note and back it in gold, all it means is that the people are getting back a debt swap that's worth something.
Yes, that's what we want, and we want to be left alone. Just leave us alone.
Okay, so I think we're getting closer and closer and closer, folks, and it's coming faster and faster where we're going to be able to live our lives the way we want to live our lives. And all this ugly, coercive, nasty, illegal, unlawful, immoral crap on the part of our employees is going to stop. I really, truly do believe that. We saw the Federal Reserve fall. Now we're going to see the IRS fall. And shortly after the IRS, we're going to see the district courts packing their little carpet bags and finally going back to the District of Columbia where they belong. And after that, anybody who's left who wants to practice law is going to have to practice American common law. So there's going to be a whole bunch of people learning a whole bunch of different facts. Either that or they're going to retire or they're going to have to go somewhere else. Anyway, after that and at the same time, you're going to see me going after the British Crown Corporation for all of the latching that they did to latch onto our names. And we will be pursuing that with diligence. So, the crack, everybody was kind of going, well, something's happening. Well, you've just seen the crack in the dam. And it's not just a crack, folks. What happened to the Federal Reserve is a big, wide, gaping hole. It is not just a crack in the dam, it's the dam. The dam is going. Okay, like I said, we cleaned up the dog crap in the foyer, and now we are moving on into the main house. We got our mops, we have our buckets, our dust cloths are right here, and our feather dusters, we're ready. Okay.
Well, thank you, Anna, so much for that pivot. I feel like everybody on California is going to feel very comfortable with that. Whereas last night, some people had, like people were uncomfortable moving forward with the liens. So now we have a great pivot, and hopefully other states will be doing the same thing, and he'll get a whole bunch of letters, in the next couple weeks from all of us. So thank you so much.
Right. Well, wherever you have a tax franchise board, yeah, by all means, go after it. And everybody everywhere, I think there's a misunderstanding. They think that the mutual offset credit exchange exemption depends on the indemnity bond. It doesn't. They're two separate things. The mutual offset credit exchange exemption was the remedy that was proposed to legalize the Federal Reserve note as a legal tender and to justify taking all of our silver in exchange for Federal Reserve notes, which after all are just IOUs. Okay, so they left us without a way to actually pay any debt, is what they did. Because in order to pay something, you have to give something of value in equitable exchange, right? And they were never giving us anything of equitable value. They were just giving us an IOU. So they couldn't very well claim that we owed them anything, could they? And that would mean that they would have to stop their operations because they couldn't afford to keep continuing to give us any service without a means of payment. So they set up this whole phony baloney monopoly money system, and they had to allow us to make these mutual offset credit exchange exemptions, these debt swaps, as remedy. Because they couldn't constantly coerce us to give them more and more and more credit based on our assets. But they never set up the MOXIE program. They never actually established a mutual offset credit exchange exemption program. They never advertised it to the public. They never gave instructions. They never printed up any forms that you could fill up or anything like that. They never actually created the remedy, and they never actually provided access to it. And as a result, basically, those Federal Reserve notes have been illegal since 1934 or 33. So they've been illegal ever since 1933 for failure to provide the remedy. And if they don't provide the remedy now, they're in even deeper kimchi, because now they know what they're supposed to be doing. And they know that if they don't do it, their whole system is collapsed. And so anytime that we want to provide a debt swap to just balance the books, it's our right to ask for that and to get it without a question. Because they already owe us thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon millions. And whatever petty little amount that we owe them for their service this year is so trivial by comparison that they should thank God and go, oh, yes, well, thank you. We will certainly absorb that. See, they've been making tons of money all this time. But they haven't had to do debt swaps. Mainly because they just counted on us being ignorant and not asking.
Wow. What an impactful time. Thank you, Danica, for bringing forward your question to help us clarify this sort of order of things, and clarifying what the big nebulous question mark from last night's call. So this is perfect timing, I think.
You're very welcome, and I would have never thought of our state assembly to contact the Marco Rubio's office. It would not have occurred to me because I always think like with like. So federation with the feds and state with the state. That's why we did the governor and the state of the Secretary of State. I didn't think to go to their mom and dad.
Right.
Right.
Hey, your little chilies aren't doing so hot in our state. Why don't you tell them they need to go to bed without dinner tonight?
That's exactly it. Or tell them, hey, you're a franchise. You can't franchise a franchise without our permission.
Yeah, and the people are not subjects of this franchise.
Mm.
Period.
Right.
End of story.
So
And we
why don't
tried
you
to
just shut down
communicate with
the whole
them.
thing?
Sorry,
Shut it
Anna,
all
what did you
down.
say?
I said shut it all down. It should be shut down just like the IRS.
Please do. Yeah, please do. Thank you so much for your extra time, Anna. I really appreciate you. Love you and have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right, guys. I'm glad we caught up on that one.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right, it is 7:30. It's 6:30 your time, and there was there was a question that came up. We could ask Dorothea to email the question.
Please, my voice is going. You can tell.
Okay, Dorothea, can you email me your question, and I'll make sure that I get it over to Anna, okay?
Can you send me your email, Michelle, please?
Yep. I'll put it into the chat right now for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Glad to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, guys, think of the mop and bucket. See yourself in your little Carol Burnett outfit with the apron, the kerchief, and you're going to go after the dirt. Okay, everybody?
That's right. This is our year, Anna. It's going to happen. All your years of getting us prepared for this. We're going to see some major fruit coming this year.
That is right. And the change in the Federal Reserve is part of that fruit. And the change in the IRS and all of that. Imagine April 15th is going to come and go, and it's just going to be another day.
Awesome. So good. Thank you, Anna. By the way,
Bless you, Anna.
I know you're going to be hopping off, Anna, but I did want to share the good news for everybody. Feel free to stay on, or if you need to hop off, that's totally fine. But Maurice, at the very top of the call before you hopped on, Anna, he was going to share good news with us. And it's a very brief little statement, but it's very important. He said, "Attention, all American state nationals, we have another win. When you go to the airport, all you have to do is ask for a supervisor, and our cards are cleared right at the main gate. You don't have to go to the back or anything. You just ask for a supervisor, and your credential card is cleared for all your travel purposes. I just took my mother-in-law to the airport, and she made it to her destination with just her national credential card. P.S. Another update. She actually didn't need a supervisor. It actually scanned on the machine, so even better. Also, the TSA employee asked her for her number so that he can become an American. If you know better, you do better. So no ID, no passport, no real ID. Proud to be a true American, not a U.S. citizen, corporate fiction, 14th Amendment slave, living man, free indigenous foreign American state national. Hashtag ghost, he wrote with champagne bottle emojis."
Right, you guys. Yeah, that's the important distinction. If anybody calls you a sovereign citizen, you look at them and say, no, I'm a foreign sovereign.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yep. and you just happen to own this country. Lock, stock, and cattle prod. Mop, bucket, and squeegee. Love
great.
y'all. Good night.
Good night, Anna. Thank you
Night
so
night. God
much.
bless you.
Bye,
Thanks,
Anna.
Michelle. Good night, Anna. Thanks, Michelle. Great host.
Thank you.
Good night, Anna.
Michelle is good as per usual.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Go ye forth and multiply.
Good night, Michelle.
Bye, Michelle. Bye, Anna. Thanks for everything.
Night, Anna.
God bless you all. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Good night,
Bye.
Frank. Good night, Lucian.